Yes, guys, welcome again to our channel. Raila Odinga has, in the past 4 decades, played a critical role in Kenyan politics. In fact, I can say that he has shaped much of our political landscape in terms of how we play our politics and how we handle our issues politically. Now, while doing my research today, I tried to search for areas in which Raila Odinga has played a role nationally when it comes to elections, and he has succeeded because we know that he has run for elections 5 times, but all these 5 times he has been considered to have not won in those elections according to the electoral commissions that were mandated to declare him a winner or a loser. So I came across 3 areas where I think Raila Odinga played a critical role, and at the end of the day, during these elections, they won. And I was trying to look at how and why did Raila Odinga become so central in these events, thereby making them a winner at the end of the day. So these three events were 2002 presidential election. The general election in 2002 was Raila Odinga's most successful presidential campaign. In this election, he was at the center of rallying everyone, in fact, Kenyans, to go and vote for Mwai Kibaki. There are things that made him gain that prominence and that strength that he had by then. Another one is the no campaign in 2005, where the Wako bill, Wako draft was rejected, and he ended up being sacked from the government. And then the final one was in 2010, during the 2010 campaign for our constitution. So I've looked at these 3 events, and I'm trying to look at Raila Odinga right now and the Azimio strategy towards winning 2027 elections. So in this video, I want us to look at the critical areas where Raila Odinga and his team are failing. Before we begin, for those who are watching us for the first time, please take a second or two, subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. For those who are returning and have watched us before, or even those who have subscribed, we thank you for the support, and please, we don't take that for granted. We enjoy your company, and joining us at this early stage really shows the confidence that you have in our team. Now, the first area where Azimio is failing, and I think this has been a major failure for Raila Odinga, is that political messaging is poor. In the past 3 events that I have mentioned, their political messaging was top. In fact, he was leading in terms of educating the masses on his agenda and what he wants in those elections that were carried out by them. In 2002, I know the country was tired with the Moise reign and people needed some change. And this also helped him. And the manner in which he knew how to communicate to the population also gave him that upper hand on how to handle political campaign and messaging. So right now, if you look at Azimio, they look dead because there are many hanging fruits that they can cling on and they can take from this Kenya Kwanza government. For instance, the cost of living is high. With proper political messaging, they can make sure that this case of cost of living is made an agenda that can drive their movement until 2027 elections. We also have the tribal appointments by this government. Remember, we know that most parastatal jobs have gone for largely two tribes, and it is largely one tribe, which are the Kalenjins. If you are a good political communication strategist, you would advise Azimio to start planning their campaign in a manner and messaging, giving their political messaging in a manner that is resonating with the common man. I am telling you, if Azimio was in government and William Ruto was in the opposition, these free opportunities that are just there and anyone can see, William Ruto could have used them well to ensure that he gives the government sleepless nights. But Azimio, sometimes I wonder whether they really want something or they don't. Another thing is the corruption cases. Just the other day, we had the KEMSA and the sugar scandal. Those are early signs. You can use this as a strategy to communicate to public and give them your alternative. Tell them that if you would have given us this mantle, we would have ensured that such kind of things have not happened. Have the right people at the right place. So going forward, if Azimio is to have a credible presidential campaign come 2027, the first thing that they must do, let them rush and save their political messaging. Because in previous successes that he had, his political messaging was top. The second area where I think Azimio is really doing badly is giving us political blackout. What do I mean by this? You remember earlier in the year, Azimio had a strategy of conducting public campaigns. This is what William Ruto did from 2018. Immediately noticed that handshake had happened. He ensured that he was available in every church every Sunday. He must be available. He must be in the news. He must speak. And given the senior position that he has, whatever he says will be covered in news. We know that for politicians, publicity is a currency. But if you are out in the blackout, will you really get anything? People start forgetting about your agenda. You will need to come back and teach them or instill in them your agenda so that they understand you better. So this blackout that they are giving us, where you find that they are just nowhere, a whole weekend, a whole week, you don't hear them anywhere. You only hear the MPs. This is a failure. And if Azimio is serious about 2027 elections, they must have a strategy to ensure that they have a public engagement, whether it is every weekend in church, whether it is in political rallies, whether it is in town hall meetings. They must ensure that they remain constantly in news, not giving us juniors like MPs to speak, because no one cares about those. But if you are to speak your point and agenda that it is hard and it is instilled in Kenya, you must speak to them continuously and regularly. So that is an area that I think Raila Odinga and his team are seriously doing bad in. So for them to make some comeback, they must have a strategy to ensure that on a weekly basis, they appear somewhere, not on press conferences, because press conferences are also boring in some instances. We need a political and a public engagement. Somewhere you are in a church, you are in an event, you are here, you are speaking your mind, you are talking to Kenyans directly. These are the things that made William Ruto become president because he knew the art of continuously talking to people, talking to Kenyans, talking to them about the issues that concern them. Right now, if there was anyone serious to become anything come 2027, they have a lot to talk about. They have a lot to talk about. The third area where Azimio is failing, and I don't want Raila Odinga to do this mistake again when it comes to 2027. You know, in 2013, in 2017, in 2022, they had something called principals coming together to search for the presidential candidate. This only worked once, and it worked for President Mwai Kibaki. It worked because, first of all, a lot of Kenyans needed change. And if they found a united force that would give them an alternative voice, championed by progressive leaders that they have trusted, they would easily vote him any day, anytime. But Kenya's political landscape continues to change. Like I have also said in these videos, that William Ruto will find a different Kenya when it comes to elections and campaigns in 2027, just because of technology alone. So if Raila Odinga remains in this circle of principals meeting to go and search for a candidate, that one is the worst thing they should ever do. If they want to win 2027 elections, the first thing they must do is to be sure of who is their presidential candidate as early as now. Why do I say this? When you get your presidential candidate early enough, this presidential candidate builds relationships with people. These people will become loyal soldiers in the ground. You remember people say that Raila Odinga's main undoing has been lack of agents. Once you have a candidate, you will know your structure. You will know how you are planning your people and putting them in critical positions. And this is the issue that Raila Odinga and his team must work on. Let them find someone that they have put forward, that this is going to be our presidential candidate. You remember, William Ruto has had this easily, in fact, with Jubilee also. They have had it easily because they have been having presidential candidate and talking to people early enough, building structures, people who trust the system. But remember when just 1 month or 2 months, you are saying that this is our presidential candidate. When you say that those who are going to be selected to work in the secretariat and the team that is going to manage elections and everything and counting of votes, they do not trust each other. They are not being assembled early enough. Given the fact that Ruto is cunning and Ruto has different tricks, they should have their agents ready secretly, almost 1 year to the election, and they vet them keenly. Just 1 year, you are vetting these people and looking at how they can work. That is how you can ensure that you have these things. Use your parties that you have there. Let those heads of parties be agents wherever they are. Eh? That is the only way. But if you want to give us a presidential election, 2 months to elections, and then a presidential candidate, and then what do you want to do? You want to assemble a secretariat behind him? You want to go pick this one from ODM, this one from Wiper, this one from DAP, this one from NAC, put them together. They have not worked, they have not gelled. People cannot plan well enough when it is that short time. So with William Ruto on the steering, you only need to be sharp to topple him. But if you are not sharp and if you do not plan early enough, I can assure you, mtarambwa asubuhi. Mtarambwa asubuhi. That is all I can say. So, Kalonzo Musyoka, Raila Odinga and his team, they must find a presidential candidate early enough. This issue of threats that, oh, if you do not withdraw tax, we will do this. Forget about that. William Ruto is not going anywhere. We have an election in 2027. Find a strategy to leave him. You know, they always say that when your enemy is making mistakes, you don't interrupt him. Let them implement these ones. You think Kenyans want you to save them? There are people who have said, and this is where they are now learning, that we can never ignore politics. And looking at the tax bracket, in 2027, he will force people in the middle class to go and vote, people who have been sleeping and not going to vote. Therefore, you must also do proper political messaging. You must ensure that you plan yourself early and you also inspire confidence that if they vote for you, you will win. So Azimio must plan itself and put its house in order. These are my views. Please let's continue this discussion in the comment section. And if you watch this for the first time today, kindly consider subscribing. For those who have subscribed, we thank you. Please consider giving this video a thumbs up. Thank you. May God bless you. And see you in our next video.